The first two episodes of the Coach Prime documentary dropped. I watched both of them. I'm going to give you my biggest takeaways from early on in the Deion Sanders Coach Prime era of Colorado football.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Boulder. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Today's episode, which by the way, I'm recording at currently it's 1:37 a.m. Pacific time. So for those of you on the East Coast, it's around 4:30 your time. It's your boy. I was just excited. I saw the doc was dropping. One of my bosses was at the premiere yesterday at the Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year. He went on my behalf, was able to send me some cool videos and stuff. And so really cool to see that. And he said the doc was great. So I was like, you know what? I got to dive in. I got to watch this. Who doesn't love to binge shows? I stayed up late, obviously, later than expected because you got to watch. I had to get both the episodes in. By the way, Locked On Buffs is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. I appreciate you guys for making me your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Appreciate you guys. Okay. So I got a late start to it. I had to go to church. It's the Immaculate Conception. Shout out Mother Mary. We appreciate you. The doc was the first two episodes were titled. Let me pull it up here. It's on Prime. If you guys don't know, not Coach Prime himself, but Amazon Prime, Prime Video. It's called Coach Prime. First two episodes were called We Comin', and then Put Up or Shut Up. So We Comin' was definitely like the behind the scenes that we love, the behind the scenes that we needed. It kind of gives us an insight on what the hiring process was for Rick George. He was like, I knew I needed to get this guy. And then it also showed us what attracted Deion Sanders to Colorado. Because obviously, when you think of Deion Sanders, you think of Dallas, you think of Florida, you think of Florida State. He's from those states. You think of big states, big programs. Everybody was like, if he's going to get a job, it's going to be that Florida State job, or it's going to be that TCU job, or Texas A&M, or whatever. And he took Colorado. And then you come to find out he had job offers from, I think Cincinnati was in the mix. I know for sure USF was in the mix. And it's like, why Colorado? And so he tells the camera, he did tell the camera during his little interview during the episode that Rick George was just so passionate about the program and the football and everything about Colorado, and Coach Prime loved his passion. And so that's how he ended up at Colorado. And so I thought that part was really interesting. Again, I think we're going to rehash the I'm bringing my luggage and Louis situation just because that's obviously the first episode. That was his introduction to those guys. Again, people don't realize and don't like to talk about this. College coaches have and always will cut players. Not many coaches will do so on an Amazon Prime documentary. That's the only difference. Carl Reed at 24/7 Sports has already said that multiple players, dozens of players, had come to him and had told him that their team basically was like, yo, get out. Because obviously the portal is popping. The portal has as of today, or as of yesterday, Thursday, I think it was around 1,500 people enter. So there's a lot of options out there, and a lot of coaches, a lot of programs, they want to get their missing pieces, and the portal is where they get them. So I think everybody's going to be like, oh my gosh, remember when Coach Prime said this? I'm bringing my Louis, because people are going to want to hate on him. But what I've gathered from the first two episodes of this documentary is it's so hard to, I know why people dislike Coach Prime. He's confident, he does things differently, and he's a disruptor. He likes to do things his way. People don't like that. People also don't like the borderline cockiness that's confidence, swagger. I love it, but some people don't. And I think you see that in this documentary, and you also see his personality. You see him visiting Peggy, the super fan. You see him going through his medical issues with his amputated toes, not foot, toes, the leg that he had blood clots on. You see him battling. So you see the personal side of Coach Prime. And as Michael Strahan said, there's Deion and then there's Coach Prime. Deion is more of a humble, family-oriented guy, and Prime is like the businessman, the guy that everybody recognizes as the cocky, entertaining guy. Even his mom says there's two different people. And so it's really interesting that we get to see kind of the behind the scenes there. We saw a little behind the scenes of his family when they first got to Boulder. Shiloh, being the comedian he is, they got into like not really a debate, but like a little conversation of whether a buffalo, whether Colorado's mascot is actually a buffalo or a bison. According to Shiloh, um, bison are the males and buffaloes are the females. So little zoology from the Shiloh Sanders there. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. We also kind of saw what he inherited. Obviously, people are going to say there's editing in documentary. Yeah, no way, shocker. Yeah, there's editing in the documentary. So obviously they're not trying to portray a picture. Like they're obviously trying to be thorough and true to what they observed. But when Coach Prime's talking about and his coaching staff is talking about what they inherited and how bad it was, you see some of these clips and you're like, oh, good lord! Like you could see the lack of effort. And I would say in spring ball, you could see the kind of the culture that they were trying to fix. They had guys showing up late to meetings. They had just lack of effort. They coach. I think it wasn't Shadur. I don't know which quarterback it was because I don't think he was on camera at that time, or I missed it. It was I'm like half asleep, running on fumes, running on vibes, running on good vibes, and he goes, "Take the quick pass, take the completion." First throw, quarterback, interception. He goes, I just told you to take the completion. Like it was just a lot of learning curves for this team. And so I thought that was interesting. I also thought you get to the second episode. It's when they go to TCU. Obviously, Coach Prime's getting ready for everything, and the team is kind of coming together, and they don't really know what they are. Also, one of the things I took away too is Shadur's a really hands-on leader. I think not a lot of people see that in him, but it's not a lot of people get to experience that unless you're watching all the well-off stuff. And even then, I don't think we got to see it to this degree where he's like telling people he's like a coach on the field. Like I knew he was smart. I knew he was very cerebral. You can just tell by the way he plays. But he kind of has like this wherewithal, like this, especially in the spring game. He's like, you're running this route, you're running this route, you're doing this, you're doing that. He would tell receivers what he's looking for. Like he's just very well spoken on what he wants from his receivers. He's very communicative to them and is like, you know what? I need this from you. One of my favorite parts of him coaching someone, it was Jimmy Horn actually. He goes, you're going, hey, hey, hey. He's like, I don't have time for hey, hey, hey. I have time for hey. Because obviously Jimmy was getting shifty as one Jimmy Horn does. And so he's like, I don't have time for you to get that shifty. Make a move, go. And so I liked the kind of behind the scenes football stuff from Shadur there. And then we go to the TCU game, right? Obviously, Colorado, double-digit underdogs. TCU was a ranked team. Everybody was talking about, even the the people that they're interviewing on behalf of Colorado were like, if they lose closely, it's a good thing, right? Because TCU, they made it to the championship the year prior. And also it's really funny to watch this in hindsight. So it's like obviously we know they won the game, but just the mindset going in was like, if they just keep it close, it's a success, right? And Coach Prime, never in a million years was that his goal. His goal was to win. They go out, they beat TCU. And there was a few things I learned personnel-wise from the early episodes. Bishop Thomas was expected to kind of be the guy for them on defense. Charles Kelly talked about it. You could tell right away that Bishop Thomas he has the size, the intangibles, based on what we were seeing in the documentary, and you guys will see the same thing if you watch it, or you probably saw the same thing if you've already watched it like I did. Bishop Thomas has the intangibles, but he did not have, I guess, I don't want to say the motivation, but not everything was there for him. Charles Kelly was talking about how he's the guy. He has the strength, he has the speed, he has what they need. And then all of a sudden, it pans to him in practice. He's walking on the field. Coach Prime kicks him off the field. He says, "Get out! Don't walk on the field." Then there's another time where Coach Prime's like, "Dude, literally, you're late to the meetings. You're the last one in the meetings. You're the last one on the field, last one off the field. Like, no sense of urgency." And so I think Bishop Thomas kind of had, which he's young. It was his redshirt freshman season. So youngster will still get a lot of growth for Colorado. Still have a big role for him as he grows into being a college player and stuff. And obviously, I'm sure he improved down the stretch. But he ended the season with 6 total tackles. And so I think they were expecting more from him, realistically. Also, I think, I mean, this isn't anything new, but it was kind of like the behind the scenes with Cormani. He was talking to Rick George, Deion Sanders was, and he goes, "Oh, he's not even a month away from contributing." And it was kind of like you could tell Rick George was like, "What? Like that's the 5-star guy we got, and he's not ready at all." And so I thought that was interesting. I think also it's really cool to see the personalities of guys like Shane Cokes, Dylan Edwards, um, to an extent, Shadur. He's reserved in a sense, but also we get to see like him as a leader, as a football player, which I talked about already. And then you get to see the overall excitement after Colorado wins that game against TCU. Coach Prime is literally crying in the locker room out of joy. He's thanking Jesus, and like it was just like a powerful moment because like that's so cool to experience kind of like the excitement, the buzz, because obviously there was a ton of buzz and everybody was like, they're gonna lose, they're gonna get blown out. It's TCU. And it was just a great watch. I believe there's 6 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they drop every 2 weeks, or every 2 weeks, every week. So it'll be really interesting to see how the season progresses because obviously they start off hot. We know that. But once things get a little rough, I'm really interested to see how the energy in the locker room changed. But it was clear that Coach Prime, even with all the guys he brought in, it's hard to instill a culture. It's hard to be like, this is how we do things here because you got new coaches, you got new players, everything's new. And at the same time, you're trying to set a precedent. So really enjoy the first 2 episodes. You guys comment below what you think. When we come back from the break, I'm going to be talking to you guys about how to fix Colorado moving into 2024, because obviously they have a lot of good things coming up. We're going to be talking transfer portal. We're going to be talking recruiting, schematics, everything. But first, a word from our sponsors, because as you guys know, Locked On Buffs is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. But this episode of Locked On Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now I can play during basketball season too. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you get LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. Or if you want to play against or alongside celebrities like Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find community plays under the promo tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Prize Picks also has this really cool thing called the reboot policy. So your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured for football and basketball games. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return the second, that player is rebooted. So Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Excuse me. So if you want to get in on the fun, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Welcome back. We are talking about how to fix Colorado. The transfer portal is open. It's going crazy. And I've talked to some people around the country. I've talked to some people on the inside, and Colorado's building an offensive line. I think, well, they're attempting to, and I think it's going to go well. I really do. I think they are prioritizing the offense line, which obviously after the season they had where they gave up 56 sacks and can't run the ball at all, I think it's a smart choice to prioritize the offense line. But I found this article from ESPN, and it was like how to fix Colorado. And I was like, okay, let's address this because I think people assume that Deion Sanders is just like going to run everything back and not change anything. And the first step was improve the offense line. And it's like, great point. Second step was save 2024 recruiting class, which I hate that point, and I'm going to get to in a second. But first, I wanted to talk about the portal. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I've been told from those around the biz, those who know what's going on. Coming up, Colorado they're hosting offensive guard from University of Texas El Paso named Justin Mayers. He had basically a 78 grade according to PFF, played all 12 games, played nearly 900 snaps for the Miners in 2022, and had a total of 70 offensive snaps as a freshman. So he knows what he's doing. Programs that are after him, basically everyone: Houston, South Carolina, Texas Tech, UConn, USF, Vandy, Virginia Tech. So they got one there. They're going after which. Listen to the size on these guys. This is the important part too. 6'4", 280, a little undersized there, but he's got experience. I think he'll translate decently. Even then, bring him in as a depth piece. Then they're also after Khalil Benson, the Indiana transfer, 6'6", 325. He had offers from LSU, Kentucky. Um, Obviously, he appeared in all 12 games in 2022 with 5 starts. Someone that can really make a difference for Colorado. Come in, brings in Power 5 experience, which they need badly. And then also, you go over to Houston. Obviously, they get Ultimate Casco last year. Houston has quite a few guys leaving the portal. I think a dream scenario for Colorado would be um, the wide receiver from Houston, because obviously he's really good. Matthew Golden just entered the portal, electric. Every program that cares about football will be after him, so that's going to be a tough battle. But you go into the transfer portal over on 3, and you look at Tyler Johnson, projected to end up at Colorado, 6'5", 325. And then they also have Ruben Unije, Unije, Unuje, I believe is how you say it. Redshirt senior. Both 6-year guys, both super experienced. And they're both guys that have played quite a bit. And they're both projected to end up at Colorado. And like I said, I think it was on yesterday's episode or 2 days ago, who knows? All the days start to blend in once you get to my age, of the old age of 24. They need to bring in 5 to 6, maybe 7 transfers, and you got to hope that a few of them hit, because obviously you lost the left tackle, you lost Van Wells, and so I think he needs to be developed. And obviously Colorado brings in a new offensive line coach. He started in 2 games, appeared in 7, and then when you look at Tyler Johnson, and this is this who I'm referring to is Ruben Unuje. Tyler Johnson is another guy from Houston who very big. He had, as a junior, let me break it down what he did. He was preseason All Big 12 Conference, East West Shrine Bowl 1000 watch. He was 13 All American Athletic Conference in 2022. So these are both very experienced guys. You break down what he does. Spent 3 years with Texas before entering the portal in 2021. Makes his way to Houston. Spent the last 2 seasons in Houston. During that span, he allowed just 1 sack and 411 opportunities. Can I get an amen? Can Jordan Sanders get an amen? Because Jordan Sanders would love to be able to not have to fear for his life every time he drops back. So yeah, Tyler Johnson, Ruben Anuje. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. Hopefully I'm not butchering it. They're hosting the UTEP guy. They're hosting the Indiana guy. So all in all, they have 4 offensive linemen on their docket right now. They just landed Jordan Seaton yesterday, which was huge. And recruiting wise, I wanted to dive into this because everyone's saying, and I was kind of saying this in the sense that they weren't bringing in as high quality guys as they needed to. But now everybody's saying their recruiting class is still dead. And it's like, okay, they rank 52nd because they have 10 commits. But if you look, and this is according to 24/7 Sports, if you look at their average ranking, it's a 90.88. So then you scroll all the way up, they rank 52nd in the country as of the time I'm recording this. So if you go up to whatever's surpasses 90.22, they're all the way up to 20th in the country in terms of average per class. Their average is 90.88. So, I think I butchered that. 90.88 would get them to 20. But notable programs that they're at or around to. Michigan is ranked 16 and their average is 20.28, but they have 25 commits. Penn State 90.73. Colorado's average commitment is higher than Penn State's. They have 25. So this Colorado class, thanks to Jordan Seaton, maybe they flip a guy like Boo Carter. It's heading in the right direction. Coach Prime is getting things done. They're on track to maybe flip an offense lineman or two. It is flip miss, as we call in the recruiting industry. It's December, it's Christmas, it's flip miss. Maybe they get a guy here or there. So look out for that. But this Colorado offense line, if they're able to land these guys, flip these recruits, it's gonna be a different ball game in Colorado and in Boulder. They're gonna have Alton McCaskill cooking. They're gonna have Dylan Edwards cooking again. It's gonna be a rushing attack that can actually rush. And one of the things that was probably the most telling quote of the whole documentary, and I'm probably gonna hold on to this quote. It was, I think, Savion Wilkerson, his touchdown against TCU, rushing touchdown. They bring in Bishop Thomas to block, and they score a touchdown, and Coach Prime goes up to Sean Lewis and goes, "Great call. They're going to think we could run the ball." And I was like, oh, little does he know. Like, I mean, obviously he knew, but it's like, little did we all know that Colorado was not going to be able to run the ball at all the rest of the season. But the documentary was great. Either way, Colorado's making moves in the portal. They're making moves in recruiting. You got to keep the faith in Coach Prime. You gotta trust. I think he's a closer. I don't think I won't say he doesn't focus on recruiting throughout the year, but I think he does his best work when the clock's running out. I think it's really hard to look one Mr. Deion Sanders in the eye and be like, no, I don't want to play for you. Because I think that's nearly impossible. And I think a lot of recruits and other programs are going to experience that this year. When we come back, we're going to be talking about coaching changes. But first, a word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On Bus is brought to you by our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From supercharger, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Last segment of the show. But first, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We're nearing 4,000 subs. We're getting there. We're right there, right around the corner. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your support. Let's get there. Let's get it going. Let's get it popping. Coach departure. Colorado loses another one. Defensive line coach Sal Sunseri is reportedly a top target. He's a top target to join Biff Pogge's Charlotte 49ers staff, according to Football Scoop. And Football Scoop is it's basically like Woj at the NBA draft, where it's like, oh, this team is fond of so-and-so. And all of a sudden that's who they draft. That's what Football Scoop is like. So you kind of have to be aware. Tim Brewster's there. He obviously has Southern roots and stuff like that. If he does leave, then I think that makes room for Warren Sapp. Obviously, Warren Sapp was expected to join the staff. He's a defensive line coach. It's a possible coach departure. I didn't have all the room in my little thing over there on the side to put that. But what do they lose in Sal Sunseri? He's a good recruiter. Obviously, I think we didn't get to see a lot of potential or like what he could do with these guys, just because it's one of those things where at Colorado they just did not have the means. They didn't have the players that they needed yet. I think they're going to get those players. I think they're going to kind of get those guys, those dogs. But right now, Sal Sunseri is projected to end up at Charlotte. I think this makes way for Warren Sapp. Again, I think the name itself is appealing. I think the name itself will hold a lot of water. Does he have experience coaching or recruiting? He does not. But when you're like Coach Prime, in terms of fame level, or obviously no one's as famous as Coach Prime in college football right now, but You know what I mean? And when you're up there in that stature, it can help out. Kids are going to want to learn from a Hall of Famer. So keep an eye out on that. I will keep an eye out on it for you. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs and making us your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Comment below what your guys' initial reactions were to the doc. Comment below if you have any questions. I'd like to do question and answers with you guys. It's pretty fun when we do them. And I will see you guys on Monday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Get that Christmas shopping done. I haven't done mine, but I plan to. Have a great day.